I learned early on that like you have to kind of do this for yourself and not anybody else and not seek validation. Like, yeah, we all like validation to some degree, but when it comes to like your art, yeah, you do it because you want the world to see it, but don't forget why you're doing it. You're doing it for yourself.
Hello, and welcome to the Creative Lotus Podcast. On this week's episode, we have entertainer Teddy Martin. Please enjoy this episode. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining us and, getting to spend some time with you and share some stories. I really want this thing to feel very kind of comfortable and share as much or as little as you'd like to. But we'll go ahead and jump on in. I always start off with, for listeners as well as watching people, where were you born and raised? Kind of what was your childhood like before you kind of got into the entertainment world?
So I was born and raised in the Midwest out here in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay, shout out Ohio.
Buckeyes are very prominent and talked about a lot out here. Yeah. So, in my childhood, I'm the youngest. So basically, my siblings are 14 and 11 years older than me.
Wow. Okay.
So I kind of like grew up as the only child. So a lot of my nieces and nephews are actually maybe like 5 or 6 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
But it was pretty chill. My mom's great. My dad's great. They just moved to Florida. So,
oh, wow.
Have a great relationship with them. Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. So kind of starting out in Ohio and being born there, the youngest, the baby of the fam, kind of how did you kind of get into the arts and ultimately get into entertainment? I'm just curious, were you surrounded by artistic people? Were you kind of influenced by the culture of, friends, family, otherwise?
So funny story. So you know how I just said like my siblings are like obviously a lot older than me. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really have like a brother or sister to like play with growing up. So, and I didn't really have a lot of friends. So I actually had this mirror, like those little mirrors you can hang on in like the back of your door. Yeah. They're not very big. They literally hang on the back of your door. I would like go in my room every day and I would dance in front of that little mirror. And so we had like this carpet that I would dance on every day. And it was just because I was very shy and I felt like going and performing in my room was just like a form of like self-expression, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. And then to the point where like I wore the carpet out and my parents had to take it out because I wore it down.
That's so good.
And if you ever meet my mom, she will tell you that story. So forewarning, if you ever meet her in the future, she will tell you that story. Nice. Her carpet was worn out. So that, yeah, performing is just for me not having a lot of friends, and I actually just like fell in love with it.
Amazing. So, you're talking about performing and dancing and kind of, probably singing. What was your influence? Who were your artists? I don't know how old you are. So are we talking like Michael Jackson? Are we talking, early 2000s music? Kind of where were you at doing this, running the carpet down to the ground?
So basically, I grew up listening to all kinds of music. So my dad was a DJ growing up, so he would go
very cool.
and play like different events and stuff like that. So I listened to a lot of R&B, a lot of pop, a lot of hip hop, a lot of jazz music, like all different kinds of genres. And then I actually went to summer camp from like 10 all the way up until I think I was about 18. So like I got exposed to all different kinds of other music as well. Mm-hmm. So that's why I decided I wanted to also become, to get into music because I love dancing. It's my first love, but I wanted to express myself in a different way, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to bring in music and it just kind of worked that way. So
nice.
Now I'm here today.
Very cool. Yeah. So are you, you're still based in Ohio? Is that correct?
Unfortunately, yes.
Gotcha. What is the scene like there? I mean, because being an independent artist and entertainer, I'm curious kind of like, what does that feel like? I'm here in Los Angeles. So, obviously everyone and everything is like entertainment and Hollywood and, everything, but kind of what does it feel like being in Ohio?
Well, the first and foremost is like, yeah, it's everything there and I miss it. And I'm coming back, by the way. I had a whole discussion with Brian. I said, listen, Brian, I'm giving myself some time because I just got engaged. I actually just got my high school diploma. Thank you. So I got a lot of things done. I produced my first album this year. Amazing. And released it. So I got to do a lot this year. The scene in terms of like performing, I think for me, for one, I miss the networking and the performing out in California and the food. God, I miss the food. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
It's okay here. I think for the caliber that I want to go to, it's only going to go so far. Like, I have gotten to do a lot of great things since I've moved back here. I did a virtual Pride Festival for NBC here last summer. So I was my first time ever being on like TV and performing my music. And so I've gotten to do a lot of great things here. I just think that like my parents not being here anymore and me like literally performing at every festival here and doing everything I could. I'm more of I like a challenge, and that's why I loved living in LA, because there was always a challenge.
Right. Okay. So backing up then, I obviously missed something. So you did come out to LA, and when was that?
Yeah.
And then kind of what was that journey like that ultimately, obviously you said you just got engaged and everything, but I'm curious kind of how did you come to LA and then decide to go back? But was it because of the relationship or, kind of expand on that, please. I'm curious.
So you got time? Because I got time.
Yes, we got the time. Let's go. We got the time.
So I actually had moved out there in 2011, and that was when I met Brian. That was the first time I actually met Brian. So him and I have been friends for that long.
Got it.
I lived out there for about a year, and then I found out that my mother was very sick, and my biological father had passed away.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I had came back home, and I just kind of wanted to be with my family, I feel like, at that point in time. And so Absolutely. I was here for a few years, and then I ended up going back out to LA, I think it was 2017, just to go on vacation. And I was actually like dating someone at the time, and that's where I had met like my now fiance.
Wow. Okay.
Get into that too. That's in here. It's a lot, I'm telling you. So when I moved out, so when we went out there for vacation, I was like, you know what? I've been back in Columbus for a few years. Like, I really just miss the hustle and bustle, because here it's very slow. And like I said, things happen, but things happen for like a certain part of the year. So like from like, I want to say April to like maybe like mid-November, things are cool. Like performing wise, things people are doing outdoors, and then it's like cold. So it's like everyone's locked up. There's nothing really to do. And like, in California, it doesn't really get cold. So there's always something to do. It's always something to do. So when I moved back out there, I had ended up, my now fiance, him and I were friends first. And so I was doing shows out there. I performed at the Viper Room a couple of different times. I did a couple of different parades. I got to do a lot of I even got to host radio for a little bit out there.
Wow.
Which was really cool. So I got to experience all this stuff, and then COVID happened.
That's the story for so many people. Yeah.
And then COVID happened. So fucking COVID. So I felt like I was at a place where I was like, okay, I'm starting to get my footing. I had just bought myself a car. I was starting to make my way to where I needed to go. And then COVID happened. So obviously a lot of people got laid off from their jobs. I was one of those people. I was in the service industry for almost 16 years. So that kind of gives away my age a little bit.
Not really. It's still kind of vague. Let's be real. And you look really fucking young, so let's not get crazy.
Thank you.
It's not like you're 50 and you're like, oh my gosh, it's been a long time, guys. That 16 years is hysterical. I love it.
So I was in the service industry for 16 years. So me and my fiance were like, okay, let's just come back to Columbus to visit family for a little while, just to because we don't know how long this thing is going to last, how long lockdown is going to be.
Right.
So we got here and we stayed here for a few months, and then he made a suggestion. He was like, why don't, we just live here for like a year. And I was like, hell no, I don't want to live here.
Yeah.
I want to go back to California.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we had moved here to be like close to my parents. And then obviously like I needed to get my high school diploma so I could kind of move up in the world a little bit more. So I'm actually a preschool teacher too now.
Wow.
So I got out of the service industry. So now I work with 3-year-olds all day long.
Wow. Kudos to you. Kudos to you. That is a lot of patience.
I think that's why I've been doing music and performing for so long. I just have a lot of patience. I think that's what it has to do. It has a lot to do with it. So, you know, my parents just moved to Florida. So we had made the decision, I think maybe like 6 months ago. We were like, you know, let's just go ahead and make our way back to California because my fiance's family's out there. I just miss the culture. I just miss the energy. It's not the same here.
That's so amazing. It sounds like you've kind of had a lot of personal struggle with family and everything and people getting sick and whatnot. And then, you know, still pursuing your career, getting like your diploma and kind of getting back into like the educational field. So 2011 to obviously 2020, a lot of things sounds like they've happened, and some joyful things obviously with your engagement and everything. So, you know, I'm curious, you know, the Creative Lotus podcast was actually based out of 2020. You know, like I think everyone thought, you know, it's 2020. It's such a significant year. We're going into the 20s of 2000 and, you know, everything kind of obviously came to a halt. So, you know, Brian, shout out to Brian first and foremost, because we just keep mentioning his name like everyone knows who he is. Brian Myers. Exactly. Yeah. But, you know, he and I both practice Buddhism. And so the concept of this podcast is called the Creative Lotus because the lotus has the simultaneity of cause and effect or seeding and blooming at the same time. And so the only way that happens though is like the shit or the muck underneath in the water, right, is actually creates the photosynthesis for the flower to bloom. So I always love to ask every guest kind of, what do you think has been your struggle or the shit and muck underneath, you know, these hard times that you've had to go through that have ultimately led you to being able to kind of bloom this beautiful blossom of kind of your career as an entertainer?
I would have to say, honestly, the biggest struggle is just the loss of so many family members that I've had over the past 10 years. Right. I would literally say I've lost over 12 family members in the past 10 years. Wow. It's been a big struggle with that. And I think just me trying to find a place where, I'm just genuinely just happy. And I felt like every time I would come back here, cause this is my second time moving back to Columbus. Okay. So I would kind of say like, I'm kind of like, at a point now where I'm just like, this is the shit. This is the muck. This is the losing family and not being as close with everyone as I used to be at one point. And some of it's not because of like we don't like each other. It's just like, you know how life happens, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was actually supposed to be in LA for a wedding. And Brian and I were supposed to shoot a video this past weekend, but obviously things came up and I wasn't able to make it at that point. So, you know, everything happens for a reason. And, you know, like I said, I would have to say that's the biggest thing that just has like kept me going because I've always lost someone. So it's like tomorrow's never promised. So why not keep doing what you love, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Sorry, I'm just checking notes, not listening to you. Yeah. No, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's a huge loss over 10 years to lose that many family and everything. And I think we can all relate, you know, we grow kind of, you know, away from people, but it's not because necessarily there's, you know, drama or anything, but rather just, you know, shit happens and we kind of go our separate ways, but doesn't mean that you're not friends. And I appreciate you sharing that, you know, you feel like right now is kind of that struggle, right? So you're building on kind of this lotus kind of blooming for your career and everything. So what do you think has been kind of your greatest achievement as an entertainer, that you feel personally really proud of, but may not necessarily be known for to, you know, your audience and your fans and the people that kind of view your work?
that while this is the twist, while working on getting my diploma, I produced this last album, the same time I was working on getting on my diploma. So I would get up in the morning and I would study like all morning, and then I even like had to take off of work because like this was like my last shot at getting my diploma. So I took maybe like a month and a half off from work just to study for this test. But in hindsight, I didn't think I would be working on like an album at the same time. And I produced it myself and I wrote everything on it. So a lot of people don't know that, I guess you could say. That's one thing that I kind of was like surprised at myself that I
got it. Yeah, no, that's huge. Going to school as well as making music and producing creative content is no easy feat. And I think everyone can kind of relate to that. Can I ask why? Like, what was the reasoning for having to go back and get your diploma? Was there something that happened that you had to drop out of high school, or was it just a decision you made and said like, fuck it, I don't want to do this? I'm just curious.
No. So I don't know how familiar you are with like state testing and like different states and stuff like that. So in Ohio, so I didn't drop out of high school. I actually finished. I had all of my credits. They had this thing, it was called the Ohio Proficiency Test. So you take it in like 8th grade, it's like you test with it or whatever, and then in the 9th grade, you take it. So there's 5 parts. I passed all 5 parts except the math. So my senior year of high school, and it's funny, like side note, my mom actually like called me the other day and she was like, I have all these certificates of like your honor roll and you being in the newspaper for Who's Who and all this stuff. So anyway, so I got sidetracked. So I passed everything but the math by 3 points, and they didn't give me my diploma.
What?
So I found out 2 weeks. I know it. That's everyone's reaction when I tell them this story because they can't believe it. And they're just like, that. Yeah. So 3 points off, didn't drop out, never got expelled, never got suspended, never got sent home, was never written up. I never had been like I've never been in trouble in school. I was a good kid. So that kind of like deterred me from like wanting to like go back and take that test for so many years because I felt like I worked really hard at that point. And it kind of like, I felt like education kind of slapped me in the face. Now I'm back with a vengeance, but it's cool.
I can dig it. I like it.
So I actually I took the test 4 times, and you have to have like a 400 to pass. So the first time I took it, I think I tested at like a 368. And I was like, so I went back and took it again. I think I had like a 380. The third time I took it, I had a 391. And my fourth time I took it, I got a 419. So I actually like exceeded the testing at that point, and that was like one of the last times like you could take that test to get your diploma. And if I would have failed that test, I would have had to go get my GED, which would require me to take all those parts that I technically had already all over again. Wow. So yeah, that was like my whole year.
Wow. Yeah. No, I can totally relate. I am so crappy at academics when it comes to testing and everything. And, standardized testing here in California, I'm from California, is no joke. Like they're very strict about it, cause obviously standards and testing is kind of like the way that education, they make money, right? That's how they get their funding. But, that's nuts by 3 points. And they literally held you back from getting a diploma. That's so fucked up. Well, thank you for sharing that. I was just curious. So I'm curious, what is your greatest weakness? But before you answer that, kind of when you see this weakness kind of arise, what do you do to kind of transform it in the moment?
So is that like
is that like a trick question? No, it's not. And it's not a job interview question too, because people have said that as well. They're like, "Dang."
So I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you, and you're probably. Is this for like anything, just in general?
Just you. Like, what do you see as your greatest weakness? Yeah.
Are you ready for this?
Let's go.
Baked goods.
I'm dead. Okay,
I'm being
I got it.
dead serious.
Okay.
That is literally my greatest weakness. So I'm a vegetarian, so I don't eat meat. My fiance is like deathly allergic to like seafood, so like I can still eat it, but I don't cook it in the house because like we have to go to the hospital. So like if we go and get takeout or we go out to dinner, like I might get a salmon or shrimp or something. So like, you know.
So then that makes you pescatarian, right?
Technically, but I don't eat it all the time though. That's the thing.
Got it. That's fair. Sorry, finish it.
No, you're good. You're good. No, but going back to my weakness, baked goods. So when I go to the store and I'm like, you know what? I had the cookies the last time. I need to go to like the fruit section, or I have to go get some cereal. And I also don't drink milk either. So like I do like the oat milk. So you asked me, and
that's so funny. That is a very creative answer, so I appreciate that. On your creative side of things, I guess also other than baked goods, which I totally get. I love me a good carb. But what is your weakness?
I would say that my weakness is not being able to like take a minute to take a breather. Have you ever done something that you're really passionate about and then you end up going down like the rabbit hole, or it's like I call it the sunken space. So like, for example, I was working on this album, and there would be times where like I would forget to like eat. And so I would have to like set a reminder, okay, you need to take a couple of hours away from this so like your brain can refresh. So I think my greatest weakness would be me not taking a break when I get into something, because when I get into something like this, like I'm in it to be in it. So I would have to say that's like my greatest weakness.
Yeah.
That and the baked goods.
I love it. And then you add those two together and you're like, I'm really fucked. No. Yeah. No, but I mean, I think that's so relatable as creatives in general, right? It's like you're so hunkered down and into what you're doing, right? That you almost lose track of time. But then the negative side of that, or the weakness side of it, is the fact that like you get so lost in it, you don't necessarily take care of yourself or pay attention to, the things like your own health and your own kind of sanity, or your strength, if you will. So, no, that's totally relatable. And I love the pink lighting, by the way. It's like, I have these pink lights behind me and I'm like, yes, I love it. So my next question is, I know that you've kind of shared that you're, getting back into, your entertainment work and everything, and kind of building the momentum for yourself. But has there been a moment that you feel like you've really quote unquote made it, or a real highlight of your career thus far?
I have a couple of moments I can honestly say. The first one, actually no, I have three. My top three would be performing at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. That would be the first one.
Major.
The second one would be at the Viper Room. I got to perform there twice. That was the first time seeing my name on the marquee, so I had like a moment.
Yeah.
The third is NBC. Oh, and then the fourth one would be I actually did a halftime show here in Columbus for a women's football team for the halftime show. So it was the first time like me ever performing on like a football field. So I feel like those are like the moments where I was just like, okay, I did this. I did have a moment where like I opened up for Aaron Carter twice.
Wow.
I try not to like tell a lot of people that.
Why is that? I'm so intrigued.
So I guess he just has ran into like a lot of like trouble.
And, like, right.
So I had opened up for him twice. So the first time I opened up for him, like it was in person. It was in 2019, and it was at the Mint.
Oh yeah, here in LA, yeah.
Yeah, it was at the Mint. So that was great. He put on like a great show. But the second time, it was virtual because it was obviously there was COVID was going on or whatever. Well, it's still going on. It's when it first happened. Right. So everythth was virtual. So they only had like one performer come in at a time to like do their set. And I guess at that point, like the show didn't go very well. I didn't see it until like the end. So I went back and like looked at it or whatever, and you could tell like there was just like a little bit of like a difference from when he had performed in 2019 to performing in 2020.
Got it.
But I opened up for him twice, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amazing. So with those kind of moments, you know, I don't think that they obviously like kind of define your career, but when you have something like that, I mean, to see your name, you know, on the marquee at like the Viper Room, which is like classic, you know, Hollywood rock and roll Sunset Strip kind of moment. Like, how does that make you feel as an entertainer and artist?
I felt like, I guess honestly, in a way, I still don't believe it. Just because like you only dream about stuff like that. Like I'm from Columbus where it's not very prominent for it's just the culture is just very different. It's just different. Honestly, that's all I can say. It's just very, very different. So being out there and being able to like experience those things, and like I say, even just performing I did the Compton Holiday Parade, and then I did the parade over in Gardena. Did I pronounce that right? Did I say Gardena right? Okay, because you know some people don't say it the right way.
That's very true. Very true.
So I got to, you know, it was a lot of it. It was the experience, I think, and that's a big reason why like I miss California a lot. It was just the experience. Like I said, I'm from here, so like I've experienced everything. I was on freaking TV out here, so like I feel like at this point I've experienced everything as an entertainer, like that I could. And you know, living out in LA, there was always something for me to do.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, yeah, right. I think how they say it's almost like big fish, small pond versus, you know, tiny fish, big pond. You know, I think LA is probably your big pond, right? So there's a lot more to experience in the entertainment world here than necessarily in Columbus, which, you know, you kind of have mastered that, which is great. So yeah, I look forward to coming back out here into LA and being able to kind of see all the stuff you're doing. But so I'm curious, kind of what brings you the most happiness now versus maybe when you first came to LA in 2011 and, you know, started doing music and entertainment and were, you know, jumping, you know, headfirst into this industry?
I think my biggest happiness now is knowing who I am as a person, and being able to, like, I guess in a way, me going back and forth has like, it's taught me a lot. To appreciate like my humble beginnings and like where I come from. And then it also being out there, it also made me appreciate like I can work hard. And things do happen to people who work hard, you know, and I feel like that's another reason why like I'm ready to just venture and just kind of just like see the world, I guess, just in general. So my biggest happiness is like my accomplishments, my family that I've created, and just being able to enjoy and love what I do.
Yes.
All around.
Absolutely. Nice. Yeah, I think that's like the best of any creative's world, right? Is to be able to actually enjoy it and feel feel so happy to be able to do what we do.
Yeah.
So my next question is kind of, what is your work ethic like? You know, being a creative and, you know, you creating music and putting on shows and performing and everything, you know, how do you kind of consistently stay on top of that and, you know, kind of make sure that you're moving forward, if you will?
I've learned to give myself a little break so I like don't burn myself out. And I guess just with my experiences, like everything that's going on like around me, I try to, you know, you go to a show and they're like, hey, just like don't record it, just like enjoy the moment. You know what I mean? And I think that's what I'm doing at this point in my life. I'm enjoying the moment. And I guess that helps me stay creative. It helps me stay motivated. Like I just finished doing this album and I'm already working on an EP. So like, I'm not going to try and like finish it right now, but I wanted to get started because, you know, like they say, you don't want to just, when you get in the car, you just don't want to like take off. You kind of want to accelerate and then kind of and then take off.
Taking the time, right, to kind of not just rush. And this, I feel like in the last, well, especially because of COVID, but like the last like 5 years, everything is just so like expediently faster and faster and faster and faster, right? In the sense of having to like create content, you know, and produce, you know, work. So do you find that that's kind of been the case for yourself? And if so, kind of how do you deal with that as an entertainer and kind of musician? You know, how do you not only stay on top of it, but not feel like you are, you know, a machine, like having to crank out like one thing after another after another?
So I grew up in the era of like, okay, so now we're going to get into my age. So
let's go.
I grew up in the era basically of like where like right before dial-up started and like
I'm living. Yes.
Right before dial-up started. So like I know the internet and I know how it works and I know where like it generated from. So like now seeing like people always having to like crank out stuff. I always told, when I first got into like, I said, I'm going to take this serious. I told myself, do not put a timestamp on anything, because if you do, then you're going to be disappointed. You're going to be very, very disappointed. And that goes back to me saying you have to enjoy the moment. Like you can't just say, okay, so this last album I just released in August. The last album I did before that was in 2020. I hadn't released any music in 2 years before like I did this. So you can stay consistent, but like I feel like people will feel like they get overlooked if they're not constantly cranking out, producing stuff or whatever. Because at the end of the day, we're not machines. It's not reality. It's not. You know what I mean? So I've been working this long and I've gotten to do all these great things. So, but that's not for me constantly cranking out stuff every 5 to 6 months or every couple of weeks or every, you know what I'm saying? So it's like the turtle in the hare kind of thing, that story where like you kind of set the pace. So it's like we're running a marathon. We're not running a race. And that's just how I look at it. That's just,
No, that's great. I think you cracked me up. The whole thing of dial up. I'm like, well, I'm dead because I'll just say my age. I don't even give a shit. I'm 36 years old, so I get it. You know, I remember AOL getting a disc. Okay, yeah, see? Yeah. Okay. You be acting like you're fucking 40 and 50 over here. You're hysterical.
Well, you never
in my
know.
day, I know. Yeah. Well, no, and it is crazy because, you know, in the age of TikTok and, you know, Instagram and YouTube and everything, right? It's like, you feel this kind of pressure, especially if you're in the artistic world, to constantly be, you know, kind of producing work, when artistry at the foundation of it, right, especially in music, was really about crafting the most amazing piece, right? It's like it takes an artist to create an album, you know, like sometimes it could take a year, sometimes it could more than that, you know, but now it's almost like you wonder why these artists are constantly putting out singles, because it's kind of like they have to churn something out in order to like keep their quote unquote relevancy in this industry.
They're burnt out.
Right.
They're burnt out.
Right. Exactly. And if you don't hit top peak, with that single or whatever it is that you've released, then you're like, well, fuck, now what do I do? Cause people judge you based on your last creation, right? Your last piece of work that you've done. So, yeah, it's definitely a hard thing to kind of do. So going into kind of your music and your artistry, where do you find inspiration? What is kind of the thing that, since we're so old over here now, where do you kind of find your inspiration and creativity to make the work that you do?
I would say, honestly, just like my life, how I'm feeling that day. So and I also have this thing where when I'm working on a song, I envision how I would perform it.
Wow.
And that kind of gives me an idea for a song. So I have this song that I just did from our album. It was called Late Night Chronicles.
Okay.
And it's literally about being up late and no one's awake with you and you have all this stuff on your mind. And then it's literally about being up late. And then I have this other song, and it's funny. I tell people this story too. It's called a Show Off. So if you listen to the lyrics, there's it's I'm whispering. So when I originally started working on the song, I would because I don't want to wake my fiance up, because this is when I was off for school and I would be studying in the morning, but I would work on music late at night. So I would have to whisper the lyrics. So I would go, show off. So then when I actually listened to the song, I was like, actually this might work. So a lot of that just came from me just being up at night, or me getting an idea, sitting while I'm watching TV, or just whatever is on my mind. I just kind of just put all that together. But I also like to, like I said, I'm an entertainer, so I'm okay, how would I perform this? How do I see myself presenting this to people on stage too?
Awesome. I love that. Yeah. I feel like a lot of artists these days don't really, they perform, right? Some choreographer comes in and teaches them how to dance and, do performance, but to have that mindset of a performer going into it while you're creating the artwork, I think is amazing, because it kind of it intertwines the two worlds. And a lot of people, let's be real, there's a lot of artists, especially in the pop world or kind of, popular music, genre, are very much influenced by, just singing, or a producer gives them a track and goes, here, sing this. And they say, okay, but they don't really think out this whole thing. So, to be completely behind the scenes and writing and thinking about and using your own influence, from your real life, I think is incredible. And, like you said, you have a dance background as well. So what has been kind of the experience for you, being part of the LGBTQIA plus community, the alphabet? How do you see yourself in that realm? I guess that's a poorly worded sentence, if that even is a sentence. But what I mean by that is, do you see yourself as kind of a queer performance artist or entertainer, or have you just said I'm striving to be seen as, a mainstream artist, and that is my ultimate goal?
I think for me, in the beginning, I think when I first started doing music, I kind of wanted to be seen as an LGBT artist, but there's a lot more layers to me. I'm Black, I'm a man, so there's a lot of different layers to me. So I feel then I would have to say, if I'm an LGBTQ artist, I'm also a Black artist too. I'm also a male artist too. So it's instead of just having to say all those, why not just say I'm an entertainer? I'm a musician. I do music, if you want to know what's going on, you have to listen to the music. You have to sit down and you have to listen to it. You have to vibe with it, and take away whatever you're going to take away from it. So I think in the very beginning I think more just now, because I do more than just queer events and queer spaces. You know what I mean? I do all kinds of different events. So I think for me, it's just, I'm an artist, I'm a musician, like I'm an entertainer, like I write music, I produce it, like yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. I think you tap into this idea that you kind of don't want to be boxed in, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but right, like you said, if I'm this thing, but I'm also this thing, then like, let's just say like, I am an entertainer. This is what I do as an artist and a creative. So yeah. Do you find that it's difficult, in this space, to kind of freely express yourself and kind of put yourself fully out there, for everyone to kind of watch and see? The hater's going to hate, right? As Taylor Swift says, so like how, I guess, do you deal with that, being so kind of vulnerable and putting yourself out there as an entertainer and artist? Is that difficult? And then kind of how do you absorb that and then kind of, shift it or change it for yourself?
Honestly, and this is going to sound kind of bad, but I think I've just had a lot of so much turmoil in my life, just from like my family and just like being teased in school, like basically half my life. I think at this point in my life, I think I can roll with the punches and I'm not weak. So I think that's why I was made for this industry. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, not, if you can say, like, that's another reason, like, people are like, why did you move out to LA? And it's like, yeah, I moved out there to pursue what I love, but I also wanted to have something different in my life. I wanted to experience a different culture. I'm a Black gay man from the Midwest where they don't let women have choices over their bodies, and they try to block marriages, and the police are shooting people out here, and it's a lot, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah. I'm not going to let a couple people tell me that I can't do this because of this reason, or you know what I mean? I've dealt with a lot, so I think that's why I said I have thick skin, and sometimes I have to remind myself that I have more thicker skin than I think that I do. But, we're not, like I said, we're not machines. We're human. We have our moments. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's very fair. I was very curious, actually, kind of how that is to be kind of out and proud. Like you said, you're engaged, which is amazing. But living in a place like Ohio, I'm sure it probably is difficult. And so, the freedom, if you will, to kind of express yourself openly and freely in a place like California, I'm sure would be easier. But you also haven't shied away from that as well, which I think is amazing, and having perseverance and consistently kind of like showing up exactly as you are is very encourageable. So what's one thing that you've learned about yourself, kind of talking about the exact same thing that we were just talking about, but working as an entertainer and in this industry that you may not have known prior to getting into it?
I think one thing that I've learned about myself is that so when I was in school, I always felt like I wanted to like give up, and there were certain times where like I would give up, but I think when I got into entertainment, it was something that was just like I guess I just didn't want to give up. Like I didn't want to regret not doing anything about it. Regret not doing anything about it. Does that make any sense at all? If that's making any sense. Yeah. This is kind of one thing I learned about myself. I just never I thought I would give up. And, if you would have asked me 10 years ago, are you going to give up? I would have said maybe. But I think because I've gotten to do all these wonderful things and I've gotten to experience all these things, I actually just went to Toronto 2 months ago, and I performed in Toronto a couple of months ago.
Awesome.
And we got engaged in Toronto too. So it was a huge weekend that happened. So we went up there. I didn't even know he was proposing, but we drove to Toronto. I did the show. We went out to dinner the following evening, and he asked me to marry him. So
wow.
just like little things like that, you appreciate, and that just kind of like, what is that word I'm looking for? It kind of just reinvites that like feeling of like, you're supposed to be doing this.
Yes. Yeah. That's awesome. Man, I got to go to Toronto.
It's amazing.
I'm like, yeah. I'm like,
it's amazing.
Yeah. No, it seems incredible. It's like a big city like that of like either the East Coast or kind of the West Coast that, obviously they're Canadian, but I just heard it's like so cool and beautiful as well. So, and that's so amazing, incredible. And congrats again on getting engaged there. That's exciting. So for people that, may not know you that are listening and watching this podcast, kind of what is your sound? Like, what is your, how would you express or share your entertainment and music?
So my sound, the word I like to use is eclectic. Okay. So whenever you get a chance, go listen to Chronicles of a Dreamer, go listen to it. It's very, very eclectic. And even like my last two albums are very eclectic. So like, it's basically a sound of like rap, pop, R&B. I actually, for this last album, I actually rapped a little bit in Korean.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I taught myself like a little bit of Korean. So it's just very eclectic. I like to say my music is, a 10-year-old could listen to it, or a 77-year-old lady could listen to it. Wow. I like to try to keep my stuff like radio ready, because you never know who's going to ask you to like come and like perform somewhere, and like you can't go and perform somewhere if every other word in your lyrics is the F-bomb. So I curse in real life. Like I curse in like in real time, but like I try not to do it in my music just because like, like I said, I want everyone to enjoy it, and I grew up listening to like Snoop and like Dr. Dre and Eminem, and I grew up listening to like people who cursed a lot. But like, I think for me, I just didn't want to go that route in terms of like how I wanted to like sound. Cause like Michael Jackson is like a huge influence. So he didn't curse in a lot of his music, but people still enjoyed it. And so for me, that's just pretty much like my sound. It's just very eclectic. Anybody can listen to it. Anybody.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I think that you have not family friendly music, but yeah, if everyone can listen to it and enjoy it, then, it's kind of universal in that way. So that's awesome. Who are some dance inspirations for you? I'm curious. I just have this like picture of you as a kid dancing, like breaking down the rug, but then also kind of as a performer now, kind of who do you find inspiration from?
I would have to say Michael.
Of course. Yeah. Love it.
Back when she was on top of her game, Brittany was like my everything.
Okay.
And Sierra.
Oh yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
All the artists. Yeah. I know I miss those days. I was talking with another artist and friend, we were just kind of, joking around, but we were saying like very few artists are making, very few people make music videos anymore, right? It's like, it's just kind of not a thing. Like bring back my MTV, the legit, when they actually played music videos. But I mean, the days of all of those artists, Janet and Michael and Brittany and Sierra, like all of them just performed their asses off, not only just on, the VMAs.
That's the era we're from.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. We're showing our age. Shit. My grades are showing. Yeah, but no, it's true though. And I think it's kind of funny because this generation, Gen Z and now Gen A, which is crazy. We've hit the alphabet and come back around with this new. Yes, we're Gen A is the young children of the 2000s.
Get out of here.
I shit you not. Gen Alpha. But yeah, they'll never know. They've grown up with iPads and computers and the internet on Wi-Fi for all of their entire life, right? So they'll never know kind of what we would do turning on cable and, watching, TRL and stuff and watching these artists do performances and, debut a new album and song and be like, let's listen to it for the first time, or going to a radio station even. I mean, they still do that now, but yeah, it's crazy. I love it.
Like, do you think that kind of like, that's us saying that, but do you think that's like us saying like, we'll never know what it's like to have to like go to like the river and wash our clothes?
Wow.
Or go out and like kill our own food.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love that you're flipping the question on me. I'm living for this. You're the first guest that's done that. No, but that's totally fair. I get it. Cause it is kind of like our parents' generation and their parents, right, would probably say the same thing. I was like, well, back in my day, I had I don't even know what the hell they're called, the 8-track, and I stuck it in there, and that was the only kind of music I had. But,
what's that?
Right. I mean, but I think the funny thing is that I also think our generation recognized what those things were because our parents and like their generation shared it with us. But I feel like this generation, like there are young kids now that are teens that have no clue what the hell a home phone is, a landline. Right. They only know the digital era. So yes, it may be us saying and sounding like, oh, back in my day, I had to go wash my clothes by the riverside. But, the reality of it is that like, some of those things I really do miss only because I think it really shared those artists and people who worked their asses off to make this thing happen and gave them a platform to do it. And now we've almost democratized and given everyone, although it's brought the world closer together, it's also democratized the ability to just say you're an artist, say you're an influencer, a content creator, and given a platform to everybody. And it makes it then hard to kind of like skim through all of that, right? To be able to like find really, really great talented people. So that was very long-winded.
Instant. No, you're good.
Right.
You're good. It's like everything is like instant. It's like they, like you said about pumping out the content like every so often, like every moment, and not giving yourself a break. And it's like, that's why sometimes you see a lot of content creators, you don't see them after a while because they spend so much of their time not running that marathon.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know what I mean? I guess, it has helped us in a way, but it's kind of like hindered us, and it's kind of like overshadowed like the people who actually work really hard and who have talent too. So
yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think I always kind of joke with friends about, if Instagram went away tomorrow, millions of people's careers will be over, right? So I think that that's kind of the crazy part of it is, right, if we put so much effort and kind of all of our eggs, for lack of a better term, in that basket or that one thing, and it goes away because you have no control over it, like, what are you then doing as an artist, as a creative or otherwise, right? And so to me, like you said, this is a marathon. Like, let's really take our time to produce beyond just this app that we all kind of flock to, and really kind of like hone in on your artistry, which you really have, are doing, not have done, but are doing as well. So yeah. So who has been your biggest supporter and fan, and has really kind of kept you going through this entire, not rat race, but this marathon, as you said, of, your career and your life, really?
My parents. I would have to say my parents. They've always been supportive of everything that like I've always wanted to do. I came out when I was 15. They were very supportive, like,
wow.
Just very embracing. So I would have to say my parents. My mom, like I said, if you ever meet her, she'll also tell you the story about this one time that she tried to manage me and I fired her.
Oh my God, I want to know this.
My mom belongs on a television show. My mom belongs on TV. Like, if you ever met her, you're like, you need to be on TV. Nice. But I would have to say, my parents, like, even though I've been through a lot with them, and what I mean a lot, I mean like their health, just having times where like we didn't talk for a really long time, not us always agreeing. But I feel like they've always been there to like read me on, even if they physically like can't be there for something that I have going on. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. No, family is, goes thicker than blood, as they say. And I think that having that support is so crucial. What was it like for you? You know, we kind of talked about COVID a little bit, but like, what got you through COVID? You know, like what was the thing that kind of kept you going? I mean, now we're in 2022, you know, and according to President Biden, you know, the COVID is over. But you know, like what is the thing that kind of kept you motivated and moving forward through it? Because, you know, so many people, not all jokes aside, you know, so many people have died from COVID, but not only that, you know, so many people were affected and, you know, artists kind of keep on trudging through, but like, what was that like for you, to keep on going and now kind of wrapping out 2022 and going into 2023?
I think just being with my fiance's family, because we were living with his grandparents like when COVID like happened, because we were in like transition, because we were like, okay, we're about to move out. We were like looking for places, and then like I said, COVID happened, and obviously we didn't go anywhere. But his grandmother is like seriously one of the most amazing people you will ever meet in your life. So I think they kept me grounded. They kept me safe. Because, you know, I'm away from the Midwest, living out in the West Coast. So it's obviously it's a little different. So, you know, I felt like I had my family with me. And that was one thing that I think that like kept me going. And I don't know, like, are we allowed to mention marijuana on here at all?
You can say whatever you want.
Okay. And the marijuana.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep it real. Keep it real.
Kept me going. No, but like, all jokes aside, no, it was his family that kept me going. And being able to like talk to my parents every day on a daily basis. Because, you know, COVID wasn't just affecting California, it was affecting the whole world. So, you know, I have two parents that are over 60. So, you know, I worry about their health and I wasn't with them. And so it was just being able to like have family surrounded.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. No, having that core group of people around you and, having kind of people that support you and keep you motivated, I think is super duper, not only helpful, but necessary as well. Just a few more questions here. So kind of looking towards the future, what are maybe some goals that you have for the next 3 to 5 years, or maybe even 10 years from now, for your career? Why did I say that's so weird? Career.
It's okay, because I totally dropped my phone earlier, so you're good. And it took us like 30 minutes to get this thing situated. So listen.
Okay, keeping it real. Keeping it real. But we're here and we're doing it. We're doing it. It's good.
Oh, man. So honestly, in the next 3 to 5 years, I want to play a lot more festivals.
Okay.
Like all over the world. Like that's like my, you know, I tell my fiance, I was like, even if I'm never like, I win an award, which I will get nominated. I may not win an award, but I will be nominated one day for something. I just want to play festivals. I want to perform at festivals. I want to meet people. Like I want people to hear my music. Like we were talking about earlier, just like the age of like Instagram and TikTok and everything is just like at your disposal. It's like, it's a different feeling when like you're at a show and you're seeing your favorite performer or you're seeing people perform on stage. It's a different feeling. It's one of those living in the moment kind of things. And that's the one thing I love the most. I love living in the moment when I'm performing on stage. So like, that's just like my biggest goal is just like, play way more festivals and do more like professional like corporate events to perform at. That's like a big goal too, because I told you I have friendly music that I can like kind of take anywhere, and I'm a versatile artist, so that's like a big goal, is just to like basically like expand my resume of like performing different places.
Yeah. That's awesome. Is there specific names of festivals that you want to hit? Like, do you have specific goals of kind of like Coachella or doing Bonnaroo or doing, you know, like,
I would love to do Bonnaroo. I would love to do Honestly, Coachella is honestly not probably like a thing that I would probably do. I would do Bonnaroo before I did like Coachella, I feel like. And
Okay.
then um honestly, I've always wanted to do like the Long Beach Pride Festival too.
Hmm.
I've always wanted to
Okay.
do that. And then I honestly another big goal I have is I actually like want to start performing at like universities a lot more too
Okay.
for like the kids and stuff. So just
Nice.
performing just in general. I love being on stage. I love being on
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah.
That's just to perform a lot more.
Yeah. I think that's what people miss the most. You know, people who really enjoy live music and going and seeing performances is the thing they miss the most during COVID, and has kind of exploded again, if you will, into, you know, the ability to kind of get back together and go see shows. So, yeah, that's super exciting. I love that. And I look forward to seeing, what places you perform at and are able to kind of, you know, share with us. So what would you say to your future self? This is always a tricky question for some folks, but what would you say to yourself 15 years from now, whether that's advice or, you know, asking yourself a question, whatever you feel is kind of most fitting for you?
So I'm asking the person in the future the question, or they're asking me the question?
You're asking or saying something to your future self in 15 years from now.
Okay. I would have to say to my future self is you've been working this hard and everything is going to continue to pay off.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well said. That's awesome. That's very well said. Absolutely.
Thank you.
You did not get tongue tied or twisted on that.
Yeah.
Everyone usually says, "Oh, so my younger self?" I'm like, no, not your younger self. It's very simple. That's a very simple thing to say to your younger self. But yeah, 15 years. I love that. Do you have a motto or phrase that you really cherish and or kind of consider to be kind of a life motto that you run by?
Be a dream warrior. Be a dream warrior. Like, you can dream big, because the more you dream, the more you want to put it into reality. So I just be a dream warrior, dream big. I've always dreamed big, and when I dream big, like, big things happen, you know? So, yeah.
Amazing. I love that. Being a big dreamer. Yes. What advice would you give to an entertainer that is just getting into the world of performance and music and really trying to make it in this industry?
Don't have high expectations of people.
Can you expand upon that? Like, why?
When I first started performing, I had this like whole mindset, especially being out here. I wanted all my family and all my friends to come to my shows, and I wanted everyone to download my music, and then it wasn't happening, and I got disappointed, and it pissed me off, and it made me sad. Made for great music. But I learned early on that, like, you have to kind of do this for yourself and not anybody else, and not seek validation. Like, yeah, we all like validation to some degree, but when it comes to like your art, yeah, you do it because you want the world to see it, but don't forget why you're doing it. You're doing it for yourself. So I learned early on not to have high expectations of people, period. And kind of let them prove themselves, because you have to prove yourself too, you know? Yeah.
Very well said. I love that. And the last thing would be kind of, do you have a faith or religion or spirituality that has kind of helped you to kind of keep yourself going, or something that kind of keeps you grounded?
I pray. I don't go to church, but I guess you could say I believe in God to some degree. And I know, like, when you say that, they're like, what do you mean to some degree? They're like, what does that mean? I think for me, everything happens for a reason. So rather it's God, or it's Allah, or it's whatever your faith is. As long as you have some kind of faith, I feel like that's important. You may not have to agree with everyone else's faith, and that's okay. We're all human. No one's perfect. But I think for me, I believe there's a higher power. There's something pushing us. There's something, or it could be the universe. You know what I mean? But I grew up in not like a religious family, but I grew up in a religious family where like we still went to church. My family's from the South, so everything was about God, talked about God every day, Bible study, like did all that. So I do believe there's something out there to some degree. Yeah.
And then I wanted to know, if you could actually give us a little something musically for the audience, just to kind of hear, who you are since you are an entertainer.
Yeah. Let me see. Let's see. Okay. Here we go. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Awake, intake, can't sleep. It's been a long week this year. Oh dear, my mom mad, made me kind of sad. Another song needed to be had. Babe's real photogenic, got me weak. I'm lucky. I don't miss a beat. I don't accept defeat. Earning my seat, they wanted me to leave. Anxiety, probably. Authentic, eccentric, for sure. I should get some sleep. Brunch sounds good to me if I get up. My best friends I might hit up. Dreamland is on and calling. I don't want to go. I'm stalling.
Woo! Okay. I hear you.
Yeah.
Let's see if this thing works. I want to give you a big cheer. Let's see if this. Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Teddy. That kind of wraps it up for me, actually. The last question I have, that I ask every guest, and I'll put all the links down below. Sound like such an influencer, and I love it. But I'm just curious, kind of, where can people find you on social media, as well as do you have a website that they can go to check out more of your music and all of the things that you're doing and all of your shows that you're going to have?
So you can find me on all social media platforms, Mr. Teddy Martin. It's MR, not MISTER. I have to specify that because I'm just like, no, I didn't want to make it that long. So it's just literally Mr. Teddy Martin. I have music on all platforms. So Spotify, Apple, Tidal, basically anywhere where there's like music to be heard.
Nice.
And I just released so I have like some old stuff, like when SoundCloud like first came out. But all my stuff is mostly just like on YouTube and Spotify and Apple and stuff. Oh yeah, my third album just came out. It's called Chronicles of a Dreamer. So make sure you go listen to that.
Love it.
And it's with a KR, not a CH.
Love it. Chronicles of a Dreamer.
I'm black. I had to switch it up.
I'm done.
I had to put a little seasoning on it.
Oh my gosh. That is so good. I'm dead. That's so funny. I love it. Said I'm black. Put some spice on that shit. Let's go. Keeping it real. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah. And we'll have everyone check out Mr. Teddy Martin on all the social platforms and go and give a listen to his new album. And I really look forward to seeing everything that you're doing, all of the new shows that you're going to do, performances. And when you come back to La La Land here, you definitely get together.
You got to come to one of the shows.
Absolutely.
Oh, so you just said La 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 La. I actually have a song on my new album that's called that. And it's about me like missing LA. So you have to go listen to it. Yeah. Okay. Yes. It's fun. It's a fun song.
I'll link that track. We definitely gotta make sure people listen to it. So fantastic. Well, thank you again. And I'll look forward to seeing you here in La La Land.
Okay. You have a good night.
Thank you so much for listening and watching here on YouTube to the Creative Lotus Podcast. And a huge thank you to Teddy Martin for such an amazing interview and sharing all of his insights in his entertainment career. This week's Buddhist quote of the week is, "Age is not an excuse for giving up. Allowing yourself to grow passive and draw back is a sign of personal defeat. There may be a retirement age at work, but there is no retirement age in life." By Daisaku Ikeda. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this week's episode of the Creative Lotus Podcast. Please go ahead and subscribe, give us a like and a review on Apple Podcasts if you don't mind. And if you go ahead and click this button right here, you can watch another full episode of the Creative Lotus Podcast. Until then, I say let's talk creative on the Creative Lotus Podcast. Thank you, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Creative Lotus Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Zaki. Please go ahead and subscribe, rate us, and write a review. And follow me at Alan Zaki on social media. I look forward to having more amazing creative dialogues on the next episode.